I'm 35, my wife is 31, and for the past 6 months, our intimate life has been completely non-existent. I don't know what to do. We have 2 little boys, one is 3, the other just a year and a half. On top of that, we're in the middle of building a house. I'm not the type to just sit back and watch everything fall apart. I like to tackle problems head-on. So, I decided to have a straight-up conversation with my wife and figure out what was going on. I asked her, "Why did you stop talking to me, hugging me, kissing me? Why do my touches seem to annoy you now? Why did you shut down any kind of intimacy?" At first, she didn't want to say anything, but eventually, she opened up, and what she told me hit hard. She said I don't meet her expectations, that she's the one doing everything. She can't rely on me. She's the one in charge at home, making all the decisions, taking care of the kids. She even told me I should be alone because I'm an introvert. It was a gut punch, but I took it in, told her I understood her frustration, and promised I'd work on myself so she wouldn't feel so overwhelmed. I love her too much to argue. I'd rather validate her feelings than turn this into a fight. But deep down, I have my own thoughts about all of this, and they've been keeping me up at night. There's one massive red flag that led me here. Her accusations don't line up with reality. That's my opinion, but I genuinely believe I'm a good husband. I work from home 8 to 9 hours a day, but after that, I'm fully involved with our boys. I play with them, feed them, take our oldest to swim lessons, put them to bed, you name it. If they wake up in the middle of the night, I'm up too. On top of that, I help around the house. I do the dishes, grocery shopping, and light cleaning. My wife prefers to clean herself since, according to her, I don't do it as well as she does. I also handle everything related to our cars and the house we're building. I do a lot to make her life easier because I understand how exhausting it is to raise 2 little kids. Now, some people can't sit still for more than 5 minutes without thinking about what else needs to be done, what project to start, or what business to launch. Her dad is like that. I'm not. Once the kids are asleep, the work is done, and the house is clean, I just want to unwind. I like to watch a movie, play some video games, just clear my head. I'm not the entrepreneurial type. I'm good at what I do, and I prefer having a stable job where I know what's expected of me. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. Plenty of people feel the same way. I don't have dreams of becoming some big-shot millionaire. I just wanted a solid, happy family and a decent life. But somewhere along the way, that started to bother my wife. And I don't know when or why it changed because, for years, we were happy. We had a great relationship for 5 years before getting married, and the first 4 years of our marriage were good. We had a serious talk in December, and after that, I started pushing myself to do more. Stuff that didn't come naturally to me. I took on extra shopping, home renovations, and basically eliminated any downtime in my evenings. No rest, just constant movement. She liked it, but her attitude toward me? That didn't change. So I initiated another conversation. This time I asked her straight up, "Do you even want to stay married?" She said, "I don't know." That stung, but I pushed forward. I asked if she'd be willing to go to couples therapy. Again, I don't know. At that point, I told her there was no room for I don't know when our kids could soon be splitting time between 2 separate homes. That finally got her to agree, though she wasn't particularly invested. I had to be the one to find a therapist. And then, during one of those painful therapy sessions, she dropped something on me that I'll never forget. She admitted she married me to impress her parents and in-laws. She wanted to create the image of a big, happy family with beautiful kids. That hurt. And on top of that, I found out she'd been discussing our marriage with a local priest. Still, I went through with therapy. We're about to have our 3rd session, and one of the things we discovered is that we have completely different love languages. I need physical connection. She values acts of service. But even with that knowledge, nothing has changed. I still get 0 physical affection, not even a simple hug. After 2 sessions, I asked her how she felt about therapy. Her only response? That she was uncomfortable sharing our personal life with a stranger. When the therapist found out we hadn't slept in the same room for 6 months, she was shocked. My wife said it was because she sleeps with the kids, and there just isn't space for me. The therapist called that out immediately, saying it was a bad precedent to set. If the bed was too small, she suggested we go to IKEA, buy a single bed, and place it next to the main one. So that's exactly what I did. I bought a bed, put it together, and now I sleep there. And yet, I still feel completely alone. She sleeps all the way on the other side, with the kids in between us. It might as well be a wall. Since all this started, her explanations have shifted. Now she says she's depressed from being home with the kids all the time. That all those hurtful things she said before were just emotions getting the best of her. I would never say something like that to her, no matter how I was feeling, but apparently, I'm just supposed to accept it. She recently went back to work, and we hired a nanny. The only noticeable difference? We started talking again. But I'm not just her friend. I'm her husband. And that part of our relationship is still dead. She doesn't care about therapy, so I have to be the one to schedule it. And when it comes to intimacy, she told me she doesn't need it at all. That she only ever did it because I wanted it. That statement made me feel disgusting. Like I was forcing her into something she never even wanted. She was never enthusiastic about sex. But once a week was our norm, and I was fine with that. Could it have been more? Sure. But I wasn't pushing for anything excessive. This year we've been intimate exactly twice. And both times it was purely out of obligation. Once in early January for my birthday. Apparently I have to have a birthday just to be touched. The second time was after a therapy session when I initiated it. But she just laid there, covering her chest, waiting for it to be over. That was the last time I even tried. This isn't how it's supposed to be. A marriage shouldn't feel like this. And when I bring it up, her only response is, "That's just how I am. If you don't like it, leave." I don't know what to do anymore. So I'm asking you, what would you do in my situation? Drop your advice in the comments and we'll move on to the update. Update 1. One night, my wife tried calling her ex 4 times in a row, at 10 p.m. She never actually got through to him, but she kept trying. The only reason I even found out about it was because we had an old app where both of our numbers were saved. It let me see incoming and outgoing calls. When I saw those late-night attempts, I lost it. Why was my wife calling her ex over and over again at 10 at night? I needed answers. I checked her laptop messages. Yeah, I felt awful doing it, but under the circumstances, I felt justified. We're married, we have kids, and she was acting shady. That's when I saw the message she sent him after those 4 calls. "I will keep calling until you pick up and talk to me like a normal person." When I confronted her, she flat out lied. She said she never called him. Then I pulled up the app and showed her the outgoing calls. She had no choice but to admit it. But her explanation? She claimed it was just a response call. I wasn't buying it. I knew she messaged him after the calls, so I asked if she had sent anything. She said no. Another lie. I pulled up the message, and she had no choice but to admit it. Her excuse? That he had messaged her first, then called and started talking nonsense. She got annoyed, told him off, and hung up. But afterward, she felt weird about it, so she tried calling him back. When he didn't answer, she sent that text. And that was it. He never responded. I don't know what to think. This happened right around the time she started pulling away from me physically. And her take on it? She sees nothing wrong with hiding this from me. To her, it's not a big deal. But to me, any contact with an ex, especially this kind of contact, is a massive red flag. It's unacceptable. My wife has completely checked out of our marriage. No intimacy for 6 months. And right in the middle of all of that, she was calling her ex at night. Update 2. First off, thank you all for your comments. At first, I honestly couldn't believe how many of you thought my wife was cheating. Felt like something out of a movie, not real life. I kept telling myself, she wouldn't do that. But today I learned the truth. And now I know she's cheating. I feel like an idiot. But this is my reality now. I know I said I would call her ex or talk to her family, but instead, I decided to stay calm. That was incredibly hard to do. Instead, I took a different route. I put a voice-activated recorder in our car. It was only in there for 3 days. In those 3 days, my wife used the car to go to work, then to the gym. And at some point, she called her ex. Or maybe he called her. I don't know. But I heard everything. It was a video call. I sat there, listening to every word. They flirted, they joked. It was just like we used to talk when we first started dating 9 years ago. They talked about their lives, about intimacy. And they made plans. She told him she wanted to visit him in July. She even told him she was giving him 2 years to move back here. I can't wrap my head around it. I just sat there, listening to an hour of recorded nonsense. I have a lot to process. Next week, I'm meeting with a lawyer. And honestly, I never would have known the truth if it weren't for all of you. If I hadn't put that recorder in the car, I'd still be second-guessing myself, still feeling guilty for even suspecting her. Now I know. I'll keep you updated. But right now, I need to clear my head, focus on my kids, and figure out my next steps. Update 3. This all started in September. That means I've been out of the loop for months. Probably longer than I even realize. Now, my wife can't stand being around me. She always has somewhere to be, her parents' house, her sisters, her friends. And even when we're home together, after we put the kids to bed, she just disappears into another room or lays there in silence. And I know why now. The recordings made everything crystal clear. She told her ex she loves him, that she wants to go to him, hold him. She said she wants to marry him. They even talked about his favorite position in bed. So yeah, they've been sleeping together. That much is obvious. I have all of this on tape. The wildest part? My wife has no idea I know. Her family doesn't know either. As far as they're concerned, we're just going through a rough patch. But I see the truth. We live in a small town, only about 20,000 people. We were supposed to move into our new house soon, but it's not finished yet. And I know my wife is going to leave me. I see it in her body language, in the way she avoids me. She's done. She's waiting for me to walk away. And in 2 years, she expects her ex to move here into my house with my kids. She even said people in town will understand. She needs a father for her children, right? No one will bat an eye. This guy, her first boyfriend. They were together for 7 years before she married me. We've been together for 9 years. He lives abroad, but he visits often. I refuse to be some clueless puppet in her game. I already met with a lawyer, and I'm preparing everything. As tempting as it is to blow up her entire life, release the recordings, tell everyone what she's been doing, I've realized that wouldn't be the smartest move. Why? Because we have kids. As much as I hate her right now, we'll have to co-parent for the next 15 to 16 years. Destroying her reputation might feel good right now, but long-term, it would just make things harder. Her family is another reason. I respect them, and I don't want to drag them into this mess. Also, legally, I won't get full custody. The kids are still young, and in this town, they almost always stay with the mother. I'll probably get weekends. And the house? I won't even be able to sell it because, again, the kids need a stable home. So here I am. My lawyer says it'll take about a month to get all my paperwork together. Until then, I have to act like I don't know anything. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. But one way or another, I will get out of this. Update 4. As much as I hate to admit it, this is the reality of divorce in Poland. After my last conversation with the lawyer, he sent my wife the official papers. They were scheduled to be delivered right after Easter. Here in Poland, Easter is a 2-day holiday, Sunday and Monday. So I sat at the table, pretending everything was fine. Alcohol helped. Tuesday, I had the day off and spent it with my younger son. My wife went to work in the capital, and while she was gone, my brother helped me pack up all my things from the apartment and load them into his car. That same day, the postman delivered the divorce papers. Technically, it was just an invitation to mediation, so we could settle things civilly, divide property, and move forward with a peaceful divorce. But the papers made it clear. She was having an affair, and that was the reason for the divorce. I planned to use all the evidence I had as leverage in negotiations, child support, visitation, and other key decisions. When she got home, I told her straight up, I knew everything. I had irrefutable proof, and she needed to contact my lawyer. Then I handed her the divorce papers and walked out. I went straight to her parents' house. Of course, she tried to backpedal. She asked what exactly I knew, how I found out, and predictably, she denied everything. But her parents? They were shocked, and they believed me. As my lawyer advised, I recorded everything. I started by asking them, "Do you think I've been a good husband and father?" They said yes, which means my wife won't be able to use her own parents as witnesses against me in court. As I expected, they were horrified. They knew she had made a huge mistake, that she had destroyed my life and shattered our family. I thanked them for their understanding and left for the capital. Meanwhile, I called a friend and asked him to spread the news among her social circle. Within 2 hours, my wife's brother called me. He told me she had admitted to cheating on me with her ex, but, of course, she still wouldn't admit to sleeping with him. He said their entire family was on my side, that she had ruined our family. Then he said something I did not expect. He told me marriage can still be saved. Apparently, he had cheated on his wife too, but she forgave him, and now they're happier than ever. Later, her father called me. He said this was completely my wife's fault and that she didn't even realize the full extent of what she had done. Then he told me something surprising. Her ex would never be allowed in his house, and he would cut off all financial support for my wife. He even tried calling the guy, but he didn't answer. And yet, at the end of the call, he also said he still thought the marriage could be saved. Finally, her sister texted me, saying she supported me completely, but that she also thought I should give my wife another chance. I don't like any of this. I am 100% certain there is nothing left to save. But I know exactly what's happening. Now that her entire family has turned on her, my wife will start crawling back. Sure enough, she started messaging me. She said she never meant to tell me she still loved her ex. It's almost laughable at this point. I don't have physical proof of their affair. She won't admit to sleeping with him. And yeah, the guy lives in the Netherlands, but he's traveled here before, so who knows? Update 5. In the past 5 weeks, my wife hasn't called me once. She hasn't shown up. She's had plenty of opportunities. She's even driven right past my parents' house, where I live now, and still nothing. Just the occasional message. We've seen each other a few times when swapping the kids, but she hasn't even tried to apologize. Just a quick hello and bye. At one point, her brother came over and invited me for a beer. He didn't try to push me back into the marriage. He just talked about what had happened and what my future might look like if I didn't return to my wife. Of course, he would prefer that I go back. But at least he didn't pressure me. All of these conversations boil down to the same thing. We can't believe she did this. We want you to stay, but we get it if you don't. Then came the day I made my decision. I told my lawyer to contact hers. I wasn't forgiving her. I wanted the divorce. My lawyer laid out my terms. Now we're just waiting for her response. And just like that, her family turned on me. Her sister started attacking me. I was now the one ruining our marriage. She admitted it all started with my wife, that my wife had been selfish. But now that she was sorry, now that she was crying, now it was my fault for not taking her back. She literally told me that if I divorced my wife, it would be me who destroyed the marriage. Apparently, it's on me to fix this. All I have to do is move back in. Not even reconcile, just be there for the kids. She said I was filled with anger, and that it would only get worse, that I needed to get over it and stay married. She made it sound like I was divorcing my wife just to spite her, like I was punishing my kids, not her. I knew this was coming. I knew the narrative would shift, but it still blows my mind. For a moment, I even started to doubt myself. I thought, is this really my fault? But then I reminded myself, she treated me like garbage for 7 months. She wanted to leave me. And now that I'm making the choice, now I'm the bad guy. They're putting massive pressure on me. But my decision is final. The divorce is happening. Now, the argument against me is that I'm abandoning my children. I figured the best way to shut that down was to offer a compromise. One she'd never agree to. I don't love her. But if it's really about the kids, I could propose a co-parenting arrangement, separate finances, no relationship. She would have to move to the capital where I live so I could be near the kids. GPS in her car. Daily phone checks. And after 7 months of dating other women, I wouldn't even hide anything from her. If she found out I was seeing someone else, I wouldn't care. Of course, I doubt she'd ever agree to this. It's just an idea, not something I'm actually planning to do. At the end of the day, I have no other way to shut down her family's ridiculous accusations. But the reality is, in Poland and most of Europe, young kids stay with their mother in a divorce. I won't get 50-50 custody. She lives in a small town, an hour from me. The kids have their kindergarten there. I will be the weekend dad. And as much as that kills me, I have no choice. That's just the way it is. Update 6. It's been 2 months since I handed my wife the divorce papers and moved to the capital. That's about an hour's drive from the small town where we used to live together. Right now, I'm staying with my parents. I sleep on the couch in their living room. My workspace is the dinner table, and my clothes are draped over every chair around it. I work from home 8 hours a day, and afterward, I help my elderly parents with their daily routines. They're 88 and 71, so they need help with groceries, doctor visits, and general chores around the house. To keep myself from drowning in negative thoughts, I try to distract myself. I go to the gym or catch a movie. But the best part of my week? Seeing my kids. I get them every weekend. My wife drops them off and I take them back. Those weekends are the happiest moments I've had in a long time. Just to be sure, I did a paternity test. The boys are definitely mine. That, at least, was never in question. As for the divorce, things are still uncertain. Since I don't have my own place, I'm pushing to get a significant financial settlement for my wife. On top of that, she's taking on the mortgage for the house. She agreed to the mortgage but only offered me a third of what I'm asking for, saying that's the exact amount I put into the house's construction. But here's the thing, I didn't cause this situation. I'm not the one at fault, and I need a place to live. A third of that amount isn't enough for me to buy an apartment. So the legal battle continues. She wants to keep the house, but based on our last conversation, it sounds like she might have to sell it anyway. She simply can't afford the mortgage and a payout to me. We'll see how that plays out. She's also trying to overestimate how much child support she should get. And then there's another argument. Who's responsible for transporting the kids? She thinks I should drive to the small town, pick them up, and drop them back off at the end of the weekend. But that's a huge time and fuel commitment. My stance? She should bring them to me and I'll take them back. So while she's responsible for all of this, she's still trying to negotiate the divorce terms in her favor. A few days ago, her sister invited me to her daughter's wedding. At first, it seemed like she just wanted to be civil. But then, the conversation turned to my wife. She started saying how much my wife regrets what she did. How she broke up with her ex and even went to a priest for an exorcism. Yes, seriously. To confess her sins and leave it in God's hands. I laughed. I told her, I don't care about your priest. If she really needed to confess to someone, it should have been me. But I kept going. Okay. If she's so sorry, here's her chance. She can finally tell me the full truth. So, how many times did she sleep with him? She swore not even once. So I pressed her. Do you remember that party in November with your colleagues? Why did you book an Airbnb instead of staying with one of your girlfriends? She froze. All she could say was, why are you torturing yourself with this? And that was all I needed to hear. I told her, if you really regretted it, you wouldn't still be lying 2 months after I left. That was just one example. Then I brought up something else. For me, video calls are no different. I know you did things with him over video. She didn't deny it. She couldn't even count how many times they did it. So I looked at her and asked, how do you even imagine us getting back together? You start talking to me and immediately lie. Do you understand that I would check your phone every single day? Would you be okay with that? She got defensive. That's not trust. That would be treating me like garbage. Before I could reply, our son interrupted. I ended the conversation with, just remember, you didn't just change me. You changed our 2 wonderful boys too. That set her off. She started yelling, saying this was the last time I'd bring up her betrayal in front of the kids. Funny, because just a few days earlier, her sister told me she cries every day about what she did. She's such a hypocrite, crying in front of her family, playing the victim. But when she talks to me, she still lies. At one point, she even said, if I wanted to be with him, I would be. Like I'm supposed to be grateful that she broke things off and chose to control herself. Seriously? At this point, I'm worried about how this will affect my boys. My oldest has started showing signs of stress. I know they'll need therapy at some point, but no matter what, I'll always be there for them. Update 7. Our lawyers finally reached an agreement. The divorce will happen soon. She's keeping the unfinished house, and the mortgage is fully on her now. The house will remain for the kids, which is fine with me. I don't want anyone saying that I forced her to sell it out of revenge. And honestly, I don't even want to live there. That small town is in my past. My life is in the capital now. I got my share of what I invested in the house, and the amount is fair. Child support is also reasonable. Most importantly, she agreed that she will bring the kids to me every weekend. I'll only have to take them back. That means I get to see my sons almost every weekend. But even that doesn't feel like enough. The pain is unbearable sometimes. I hate that I can't be with them every day. I would do anything to have full custody, but Polish law doesn't work that way. The courts always side with the mother. I'm stuck being the weekend dad. So now, I'm considering visiting them midweek just to cope. As for my wife, she's still trying to win me back. She keeps messaging me, saying she loves me, that she regrets everything and wishes she could turn back time. She's gotten so desperate that she even said she wouldn't mind me checking her phone. She offered to move from the small town to the capital so we could be closer. She even said she'd confess every single detail of her betrayal if I just take her back. She even showed up at my parents' house to apologize. Clearly, someone got to her. Maybe her family, maybe her church. But now, she's suddenly ready to do anything to fix things. Her latest message? Thank you for not selling the house and ending things peacefully. But agreeing to your terms also means accepting this divorce. And I just want you to know, that's not what I want. I love you. I don't want this divorce. Too bad. Because I do. I know you believe me and I appreciate that. But I want you to know, I still hope that one day I'll have a chance to prove my love to you. I love you, and I'm sorry for everything. There are no words to describe how much I regret it. That's what she told me. And honestly, hearing things like that just confuses me and makes the healing process even harder. It would be a lie to say her words don't affect me at all. I can't pretend I don't think about it. About what it would be like if my kids lived with me in the capital. But that's not reality. The reality is that she is the one who broke everything. She is the one who changed. And now we're living with the consequences. I really do believe that raising 2 little boys on her own is hard. But she made her choice. She destroyed everything we had. I thought time would make things easier. But the wound is still wide open. Still, I'm gonna see this through. I will finish this. Do I think she's actually repentant? I don't know. She only agreed to tell me the full truth about her betrayal if I took her back. And it didn't happen right away. It took 3 months before she even started showing any remorse. Even now, her apologies come through text messages. She doesn't call. She doesn't show up. Meanwhile, her family has completely turned against me. Her mother calls me a narcissist. Her sister accuses me of trying to profit off the divorce and leaving a poor woman alone with 2 little children. And then last night, when I dropped by for a short visit with the kids, she invited me to stay the night. Of course, I left. 6 months later, my thoughts. This whole thing has forced me to ask myself the same questions over and over again. Do I still love her? Could I go back just for the kids? Could I ever be comfortable again, knowing what she did? Could I move back to that small town and finish building the house? And every time, the answer is the same. No. I love my children more than anything in this world. I want to see them every day. But I can't. I wish I could still love her. But I don't. I wish I could go back to the family we had. But it's gone. I wish I could forget everything. But I can't. At one point, I even gave her a way back. I told her we could try again. But only if she moved to the capital with the kids. We could start fresh. Build a new life. She refused. She said her family helps her too much in the small town. That she wouldn't sell the house because she wanted our kids to have something in the future. I told her a family isn't a house. It's a mother, a father, and their children together. She just sat there, silent. And that was when I knew. There was nothing left to save. No middle ground. No compromise. I told her I wouldn't spend my life in that small town, because that's where it all started. That's where she betrayed me, and that's where we ended. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like.